So, a lot of folks always find an easier way of installing Gentoo, and I always have very mixed feelings about that because, on one hand, installing Gentoo step by step using the documentation not only teaches you additional fundamentals, but it does teach you how to manage a Gentoo system. And I've noticed online a few reviews recently of ExGent's Gentoo build, where you can install Gentoo by using the Calamares installer, and it makes life so much easier. And I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to show you one, how to do that and how to install that, and how well it actually works. But then I'm going to show you afterwards why I'm not the biggest fan of it and why I don't recommend doing it. And I'm actually going to show you a perfect example of what happens if you try to update the system. So let's take a look. So there's a couple of versions, but I've got the OpenRC edition that has a Calamares installer pre-installed. And as you can see here, I've actually logged into the account as root. And the normal desktop they use is LXQt. So it's pretty lightweight and pretty simple. But first thing I'm going to do is let's try to get this thing installed. So if you go to System Tools, you'll see Install ExGent. Okay, with a good old Calamares installer. Now, I just want to say for the record, I wouldn't be against Gentoo having a, Calamares installer by itself, as long as it came from Gentoo or a distribution that's specifically based on Gentoo. But something like this has a couple of issues. So I've just gone through the Calamares installer. I'm not going to bore you, so I'll be back once it's ready for the next step. Okay, so after about 12 minutes, that's done. So I'm going to say we start now. Okay, and here it is installed. So out of the box, they have Joe's own editor and accessories. Really great alternative mini little editor that exists, and great to see it included in something. And of course it does Emacs and WordStar emulation as well. So if you're used to certain key bindings, you can use that. And then of course LeafPad, screenshot from an gedit, not too much there. Graphics, of course, calibrate lens, panorama creator application. So this basically can just stitch together panorama images. Office, just external ++. Other not much programming, just kdevelop, kdiff, GNU Emacs, and of course Joe's editor again, and then of course under multimedia, VLC, MPV player there, and system tools, just a whole bunch of terminals, htop gparted, and as you can see out of the box, of course, really using a little bit of RAM, 480 megs, not using too much CPU usage, and swap space is minimal. And let's be honest, it's not really doing too much. So, let's say, gosh, okay, out of the box, I've got Gentoo installed. Well, in theory, you actually do. But now I pray ask, how are you going to manage the system? How are you going to install the system? What you're going to do? Right, so they do have a link to the journal. So let's be a new user and let's do it like this. So I'm a user, I found this, I've installed this, and I'm going to use it. So I'm going to open up the Gentoo Linux handbook. Okay, great link, blah, 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 blah. And now I'm going to be a little bit confused here. So I'm just going to go to Gentoo packages. And let's say I want to find a package. And I'm not too sure what package I'm going to look for. So in my case, I'm just going to do XMMS 2. Okay, now I'm going to install this package. So how am I going to install this? I'm going to ask, well, there's no additional tool here to show me how to install this or anything. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to go here and I'm going to go how to install software Gentoo. And I'm gonna look as a new user. I'm gonna go installation. No. Okay, something about here getting started guide. That's great. Okay. Now, unfortunately, at this point, one has skipped everything about sources, so that's not really going to help someone. And then someone's going to see this and go, oh, do I just emerge something? So, I'm a user, and I'm going to go sudo emerge. And maybe I'll just copy and paste this. So I'll just go xmms2, authenticate. And the first thing I see is my last emerge sync was 51 days ago. And if I do it like this, everything will seem to be all right. So I'll let this go ahead and do some emerging. Also remember now, here as a user, you might not understand. Like pre-configured like this, Gentoo is not going to use any binaries. It's not going to do anything of that sort. It's going to compile and build. So new user, well, might not understand that. So let's wait for it to do what it needs to do. Eventually it's loaded that portion, and if I go to the menu, I should hope that it's actually installed it. No, I don't see it yet, so again, I'm a new user. What do I just type it in here? Okay, guess why? Because well, of course I installed the CLI edition. Anyway, so I've gotten that installed, blah blah blah. But I need to do a sync. And now I'm still a new user and I've installed this distro and I have no clue what I'm doing. So I'm just going to do sync. And what's gonna happen now, the system's automatically going to resync emerge. And so we wait. And this is where my issue starts coming in. Where you've installed Gentoo easily, but you don't understand how to use it. So we'll come back when we now try to do the next thing that you should do when you have an installed system. Update it and see what happens. Okay, so now that that portion has been done, the system tells us we need to now update portage. So let's do that. So let's just do sudo. Okay, so now we've done that portion. So now the last thing we would want to do to keep this a running system is basically we would want to run emerge to update the whole system with dependencies. So I'm just going to do this. Okay, we've already updated the repos earlier, so that should be fine. So I should be able to do this. And now it's going to calculate the dependencies. Okay, so it's talking about we want to merge these new packages. So we're going to say yes. And this is why I'm not the biggest supporter of this, because you start to do what you need to do, upgrade the system, you've got it installed, and you're going to start getting errors. And how are you going to fix those errors is my point. So, not criticizing the developer for creating this, but I do think it should be clear that you shouldn't be using this distro if you plan to use some Gentoo on a daily basis. And you need to spin it up quickly, bring it down. You can do that, but then you might as well then use the Gentoo Live media. Folks, let me know what you think. Be really interested to hear your comments below. As always, thanks for watching and bye for now.